Mango's Story Part 1. The morning sun cast long shadows across the busy train station platform. Among the rushing crowds of commuters and travelers, a small golden-brown dog sat quietly near a wooden bench. His fur was matted and dirty, his ribs showing through his thin coat. This was Mango, though he had no name yet. He had been living at the station for 3 weeks now, surviving on scraps and the occasional kindness of strangers. Mango had arrived at this place by accident. He used to live with an elderly man named Mr. Chen in a small apartment near the city center. Mr. Chen had found him as a puppy, abandoned in a cardboard box behind a grocery store. For 2 years they had been inseparable companions. Mr. Chen would take him on long walks through the park, share his simple meals, and talk to him about everything and nothing. But then Mr. Chen became sick. Very sick. One day the ambulance came and took Mr. Chen away. Mango waited by the door for 3 days, refusing to eat, hoping his beloved owner would return. When the landlord came to clear out the apartment, Mango panicked and ran. He ran through streets he didn't recognize, following his nose and instincts, until he found himself at this busy train station. The station was overwhelming at first. Thousands of people passed through every day, their footsteps echoing off the high ceiling. Trains arrived and departed with loud screeches and announcements in multiple languages. The constant noise and movement frightened Mango, but he soon realized this place offered something his empty apartment didn't. Food and shelter. People dropped food constantly. Half-eaten sandwiches, pieces of fruit, entire meals forgotten in the rush to catch trains. Mango learned to time his scavenging perfectly. Early morning brought breakfast scraps from commuters. Lunchtime offered the biggest variety. Evening brought tired travelers with takeout containers they couldn't finish. The station staff noticed him after the first week. Security guard Rahman was the first to spot the small dog carefully picking through a trash bin. Rahman had a soft heart for strays, having grown up in a village where dogs roamed freely. Instead of calling animal control immediately, he decided to watch and see if Mango caused any problems. Mango was surprisingly well-behaved. He never begged aggressively or frightened passengers, kept to the quieter corners of the station, only venturing out when he was truly hungry. At night, he found warm spots near the heating vents, curling up into a tight ball to conserve body heat. During the day, he positioned himself where he could watch the crowds while staying out of the way. Some passengers began to notice him. A businessman named David started leaving part of his breakfast sandwich on the bench where Mango usually sat. A college student named Sarah would pet him gently when she waited for her evening train home. An elderly woman named Mrs. Rodriguez began bringing him water in a small bowl. She kept in her purse specifically for this purpose. These small acts of kindness kept Mango alive, but they also made him hopeful. Each gentle touch reminded him of Mr. Chen's loving hands. Each shared meal reminded him what it felt like to belong somewhere. He began to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone would take him home again. But days turned into weeks, and no one did. The weather was getting colder, and Mango's thin coat wasn't enough to keep him warm during the long nights. He developed a persistent cough that worried the regular passengers who had grown fond of him. His energy decreased, and he spent more time sleeping than exploring. Rahman finally made the difficult decision to call animal control. He knew Mango needed medical attention and proper shelter. But he also knew that stray dogs who went to the shelter didn't always come back out. Still, watching the dog grow weaker each day was breaking his heart. He planned to make the call on Friday morning. Thursday evening, as Mango lay on his usual spot near the heating vent, he watched the familiar rhythm of the station. Commuters hurried past with their briefcases and phones. Families wheeled heavy suitcases toward distant platforms. Teenagers laughed loudly while eating fast food. The sounds and smells had become as familiar to him as Mr. Chun's apartment once was. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, broke away from her family and approached him. She knelt down and extended her hands slowly, the way adults had taught her to greet strange dogs. Mango lifted his head and sniffed her fingers. She smelled like soap and vanilla cookies. "Mom, there's a dog here," she called to a woman struggling with 2 large suitcases and a baby carrier. "Maya, don't touch strange animals," her mother replied without looking up. Come help with your brother's bag. Maya reluctantly stood up, but she kept looking back at Mango as her family moved toward their platform. Something in her eyes reminded Mango of Mr. Chen's granddaughter, who used to visit sometimes and bring him special treats. As the family disappeared into the crowd, Mango closed his eyes and tried to remember what it felt like to have a warm bed and a full belly every day. He dreamed of Mr. Chen's gentle voice reading the newspaper aloud each morning, of walks in the park where he could chase squirrels and bark at other dogs, of belonging somewhere again. The station grew quieter as the evening wore on. The last few trains departed, taking most of the crowd with them. Night shift workers arrived to begin their cleaning routines. The fluorescent lights dimmed to their overnight setting. In for another cold night, unaware that tomorrow would change everything? In a hotel room across the city, Maya couldn't stop thinking about the sad dog at the train station. She had seen plenty of stray animals during their travels with her father's job, but something about this particular dog stayed with her. Maybe it was the way he had looked at her, as if he was hoping for something she couldn't give him. Maybe it was how thin he looked, or how his tail had wagged just slightly when she spoke to him. "Dad," she said as her parents tucked her into bed, "what happens to dogs that live at train stations?" Her father, Dr. James Mitchell, paused in adjusting her blanket. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "There was a dog at the station today. He looked hungry and cold. Where does he sleep?" Dr. Mitchell exchanged a look with his wife, Alina. Their family had been traveling for his work as a veterinarian with an international aid organization. They had seen many stray animals in their journeys, and it always affected Maya deeply. "Sometimes dogs that don't have homes have to find shelter wherever they can," Alina explained gently. "It's not easy for them." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Could we help him? We're leaving in the morning, remember? We have to catch our flight to the next city." But as Maya drifted off to sleep, her parents found themselves discussing the dog their daughter had mentioned. They had seen him too, sitting quietly by the bench, and something about his demeanor had struck them as different from typical strays. There was an intelligence in his eyes, a gentleness that suggested he had once been loved. Mango's Story Part 2 Friday morning arrived with an unexpected commotion at the train station. Maya had woken up early and convinced her parents to arrive at the station an hour before their departure time. She claimed she wanted to buy souvenirs from the station shops. But Dr. Mitchell and Alina suspected their daughter had other motives. As they wheeled their luggage through the main terminal, Maya's eyes scanned every corner, looking for the golden brown dog she couldn't forget. Her heart sank when she didn't see him in his usual spot near the heating vent. Maybe he had moved to a different location. Or maybe something had happened to him during the night. "We need to check our bags and go through security," her father said. Noticing her distracted searching, "Just a few more minutes, please," she begged. "I want to look around the station." Dr. Mitchell was about to insist they move along when he heard a familiar voice calling out. It was Rahman, the security guard, speaking urgently into his radio. "Yes, we need animal control here immediately. The dog is in the storage room behind Platform 7. He's not responding normally." Maya's ears perked up at the mention of a dog. Without asking permission, she hurried toward Platform 7. Her parents following quickly behind her with their luggage and baby carrier. They found Rahman standing outside a maintenance store looking worried. "Excuse me," Dr. Mitchell approached the guard. "We couldn't help but overhear about a dog. Is everything all right?" Rahman looked at the family with their obvious travel gear and shook his head sadly. "There's been a stray dog living here for weeks. Sweet little fellow, never caused any trouble. But this morning, one of our cleaners found him collapsed in the storage room. He's breathing, but he won't get up. Animal control is on their way, but..." He trailed off, clearly upset about what that might mean for the dog. "I'm a veterinarian," Dr. Mitchell said immediately. "Would you mind if I took a look at him?" Rahman's face brightened with hope. "Really? That would be wonderful. I've been worried sick about him." They followed Rahman through the maintenance door into a dimly lit storage room filled with cleaning supplies and equipment. In the far corner, curled up on some old rags, was Mango. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes were closed. When Dr. Mitchell knelt beside him and gently placed his hand on the dog's side, Mango barely lifted his head. "Hey there, buddy," Dr. Mitchell spoke softly. His experienced hands quickly assessed the situation. He's dehydrated and malnourished, but I think the main problem is exhaustion and possibly a mild respiratory infection. Nothing that proper care couldn't fix. Maya knelt beside her father, her eyes filling with tears as she looked at the weak little dog. Is he going to be okay? He could be with the right treatment, her father replied carefully. He looked at his watch. Their flight was leaving in 3 hours. If they were going to help this dog, they needed to make some quick decisions. Alina, who had been quiet up until now, surprised everyone by speaking. James, we can't just leave him here. Dr. Mitchell looked at his wife in amazement. Alina was usually the practical one in their relationship. It's the one who reminded him that they couldn't save every animal they encountered in their travels. But something about this dog had affected her too. Our flight, ... double quotes. He began, she finished firmly. We have some flexibility in our schedule. We could delay our departure by a day or two. Ramon watched this exchange with growing hope. I could help with arrangements, he offered. I know a small veterinary clinic nearby. And there's a pet-friendly hotel just 2 blocks from here. Maya looked up at her parents with shining eyes. Really? We can help him? Dr. Mitchell was already calculating what would need to be done. The dog needed fluids, antibiotics, proper nutrition, and rest. It would require at least 48 hours to stabilize him, maybe more. But looking at his daughter's hopeful face and feeling his own professional instincts kicking in, he found himself nodding. All right, he said. Let's see what we can do. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Dr. Mitchell carefully lifted Mango and carried him to Raymond's security office, where they had better light and a clean surface to work on. Alina called their airline to change their flight while Maya sat beside the dog, speaking to him in gentle whispers. Ramon proved to be incredibly helpful. He not only knew the location of the nearest veterinary clinic, but had a friend who worked there. Within an hour, they had arranged for Mango to be seen by a local veterinarian who could provide backup care and supplies that Dr. Mitchell might need. The examination revealed what Dr. Mitchell had suspected: severe dehydration, malnutrition, and a respiratory infection that had been developing for several days. But there were no serious injuries or diseases. With proper treatment, Mango should make a full recovery. The good news, Dr. Mitchell explained to his family as they settled into their new hotel room that evening, is that he's young and basically healthy. The bad news is that he's been through a lot. It's going to take time for him to trust again, and he'll need weeks of proper feeding to get back to a healthy weight. Mango lay on a soft blanket in the corner of the hotel room, an IV line providing him with fluids and nutrients. He was awake now and alert, but clearly overwhelmed by the sudden change in his circumstances. After weeks of cold floors and constant noise, the quiet hotel room felt almost too peaceful. Maya sat cross-legged beside him, reading aloud from one of her books. She had insisted on this, claiming that Mr. Peterson, their neighbor back home, always read to his dog when it was sick. Her voice was soothing, and gradually Mango began to relax. What should we call him? Maya asked during dinner. We can't keep calling him the dog, Alina agreed. He needs a name. He considered various options. Maya suggested Lucky because of their fortunate meeting. Alina preferred Chance for similar reasons. Dr. Mitchell, ever practical, suggested they wait to see what kind of personality emerged as the dog covered, but it was the hotel's room service delivery that settled the matter. The waiter brought up their dinner, along with a fruit bowl that included several fresh mangoes. When the sweet smell of the ripe fruit filled the room, the dog lifted his head for the first time with real interest. His tail even managed a small wag. Look, Maya said excitedly. He likes mangoes. Mango, Alina said thoughtfully. It suits him. Sweet, golden, and a little exotic, just like our travels. And so Mango got his name, along with the first real hope he had felt since Mr. Chen's disappearance. As he drifted off to sleep that night, surrounded by gentle voices and the warmth of clean blankets, he began to believe that maybe his luck was finally changing. Dr. Mitchell sat up late that night, video calling his supervisor to explain the delay in their travel schedule. The organization he worked for was understanding about such situations. They dealt with animal welfare issues regularly. But as he looked over at the sleeping dog and his daughter curled up in the chair beside him, he realized this might be more than just a temporary delay. Something about this particular rescue felt different. Maybe it was the way Mango had looked at Maya with such hopeful eyes, or the way his own wife had immediately insisted they help. Maybe it was simply that after years of traveling and seeing so much suffering, they had found one small creature they could actually save completely. Whatever the reason, Dr. Mitchell found himself wondering if their family was about to grow by one small golden brown member. Mango's story, Part 3, the next morning, brought remarkable changes in Mango's condition. The 4 fluids and antibiotics had worked through the night. When Dr. Mitchell checked on him at dawn, the little dog was sitting up and showing interest in his surroundings. His eyes were brighter, and his breathing had improved significantly. Maya woke up to find Mango watching her from his blanket. When she moved, his tail wagged weakly but definitely. It was the first time she had seen him show real happiness, and it filled her with joy. "He's so much better," she whispered excitedly. Dr. Mitchell examined Mango carefully and was pleased with what he found. His temperature is normal, his breathing is clear, and look at this, he's actually interested in food. They had prepared a special mixture of rice, chicken broth, and nutrients that would be easy on Mango's stomach after weeks of irregular eating. To their delight, he ate slowly but steadily. Finishing the entire bowl, Alina had spent the early morning making phone calls, and she had news that would change everything. "I spoke with your supervisor again. James, they've agreed to let us take a full week here before we need to continue to the next assignment. And I found something else interesting." She showed them a printout from her laptop. "There's an international pet relocation service that can help families transport animals when they travel for work. Other families in your organization have used them successfully." Now, Dr. Mitchell looked at the information with growing excitement. This could actually work. We could take him with us. Maya's face lit up with hope, but Alina held up a cautioning hand. "There are a lot of requirements, though. Health certificates, vaccinations, quarantine periods in some countries. And we need to make sure Mango is actually healthy enough for that kind of lifestyle." The bigger question, though nobody wanted to voice it yet, was whether Mango would want to stay with them. He had been through trauma and abandonment. Trust would not come easily. As if sensing their thoughts, Mango stood up for the first time since his rescue. He was shaky on his feet but determined. He walked slowly across the room to where Maya was sitting and gently placed his head on her lap. The gesture was small but profound. After weeks of survival mode, living moment to moment at the train station, Mango was making his first tentative step toward trusting humans again. "I think he's voting yes," Maya said softly. Stroking his head, the rest of the week became a carefully orchestrated recovery plan. Each day, Dr. Mitchell monitored Mango's progress while Alina handled the complex paperwork required for international pet transport. Maya appointed herself as Mango's primary caregiver and entertainment director. Rahman visited every day after his shift, bringing updates from the train station and small gifts for Mango. The security guard had become genuinely invested in the dog's recovery. "You know," he told Dr. Mitchell one evening, "I've worked at that station for 8 years. We've had many strays come and go. But this one was different. He had manners, like he remembered being loved." The local veterinarian, Dr. Santos, confirmed that Mango had indeed been someone's pet before becoming a stray. His teeth showed evidence of regular dental care, and despite his recent weight loss, his muscle structure suggested he had once been well-fed and exercised regularly. Probably belonged to an elderly person, Dr. Santos guessed. The way he responds to gentle handling, the way he knows basic commands, this dog had a good home once. This revelation made Maya even more determined to give Mango a new good home. She started a journal, documenting his recovery and personality discoveries. Mango loved classical music. It calmed him instantly. He was afraid of loud noises but curious about new smells. He preferred sleeping in corners where he could see the whole room, a habit that spoke to his recent need to stay alert for danger. Most tellingly, Mango showed signs of separation anxiety whenever the family left the hotel room. Even short trips to the lobby made him pace and whimper. Dr. Mitchell explained that this was common in dogs who had experienced abandonment. "He's afraid we won't come back," Maya said sadly. "Just like his first owner didn't come back." This understanding led to a new strategy. They began taking Mango with them on short outings, to the nearby park, to pet-friendly restaurants, to the veterinary clinic. Gradually, he began to understand that leaving the hotel room didn't mean being left behind. The breakthrough moment came on their 4th day together. Alina was working on her laptop when she accidentally knocked over a water glass. The loud crash made Mango jump and hide behind the curtains. But instead of staying hidden like he had been doing, he peeked out to check if Alina was okay. When she called his name reassuringly, he came out and actually approached her to investigate. "He's starting to trust us," Alina said with wonder. "Really trust us." Dr. Mitchell had been quietly observing these interactions with professional interest. As a veterinarian, he had seen many animal-human bonds form, but there was something special happening here. Mango wasn't just accepting their care, he was choosing them. That evening, they had the conversation they had been avoiding all week. "We need to make a decision about Mango's future," Dr. Mitchell said gently. "The pet relocation service needs at least 2 weeks' notice, and we have to leave for our next assignment soon." Maya had been dreading this moment, even though she felt confident about what she wanted. "I want him to come with us. I want him to be part of our family. It won't be easy," Alina warned. "Our lifestyle means constant moving, new places, different climates. Some countries have strict quarantine laws. There will be times when it's inconvenient or complicated to have a pet with us." "But think about the alternative," Maya argued. "He's already been abandoned once. If we leave him here, even with a good family, won't he think he's being abandoned again?" Dr. Mitchell had been thinking the same thing. "There's also the practical matter that he's bonded with us now. Rehoming him at this point could be traumatic." Alina looked at Mango, who was lying contentedly beside Maya, his head resting on her foot. "And if we're being honest, he's bonded with us too." The decision, when it came, felt inevitable. They would take Mango with them. The next morning, Lena began the complex process of arranging Mango's travel documentation while Dr. Mitchell started his extended health evaluations. Maya took on the important job of beginning Mango's travel training, getting him used to a carrier, practicing commands that would be important in airports and hotels. Mango seemed to sense that something important was happening. He stayed close to the family, as if afraid that any distance might break the spell that had brought them together. When Alina opened a pet carrier to let him explore it, he approached cautiously, but without the fear he might have shown a week earlier. "It's like he knows this is his chance," Maya observed. "His chance to have a real family again?" Dr. Mitchell watched Mango tentatively step into the carrier, turn around and settle down as if to say, "I'm ready for whatever comes next." For the first time since Mr. Chen's disappearance, Mango was no longer just surviving. He was preparing to live again. Mango's Story Part 4. 2 weeks later, Mango found himself in an airport for the first time in his life. The bustling terminal was eerily similar to the train station where he had spent those difficult weeks, but everything felt different now. Instead of being alone and hungry, he was surrounded by his new family. Wearing a comfortable harness, with a tag that read, Mango Mitchell, and carrying papers that officially declared him a member of their traveling household, the pet relocation service had worked miracles in the short time they had given them. Dr. Santos had provided all the necessary health certificates, confirming that Mango was fully vaccinated, healthy, and cleared for international travel. Alina had navigated the complex bureaucracy of multiple countries' pet import requirements. Maya had spent hours training Mango to be comfortable in his travel carrier and responsive to commands that would make airport security easier. But despite all their preparation, Mango was nervous. The smells and sounds of the airport triggered memories of his time as a stray, the constant movement of strangers, the echoing announcements, the uncertainty of what came next. He stayed pressed close to Maya's legs as they moved through the terminal. Dr. Mitchell noticed Mango's anxiety and knelt down to speak to him quietly. "I know this is scary, buddy. New places always are. But you're not alone this time. We're going together." The flight to their next destination, a small city in Romania where Dr. Mitchell would be working with a rural Animal Health Program was Mango's first time on an airplane. Alina had specifically requested bulkhead seats so Mango's carrier could fit comfortably at their feet. And the airline staff had been remarkably accommodating once they learned about Mango's background. Maya had prepared a comfort kit for the journey. Mango's favorite blanket, some treats, and a small toy that squeaked softly. She had also downloaded several hours of the classical music that seemed to calm him most. During takeoff, Mango pressed himself against the back of his carrier, trembling slightly. But Maya's steady voice talking to him through the mesh door, combined with the familiar music playing through her headphones positioned near his carrier, gradually helped him relax. By the time they reached cruising altitude, he was sleeping peacefully. The flight attendant, a woman named Christina, who had noticed Maya's careful attention to her pet, stopped by their seats during the meal service. "How's he doing?" she asked quietly. "Better than expected," Maya replied proudly. "This is his first flight. Actually, this is his first time leaving the country where he was born." Christina smiled warmly. "Well, he picked a good family for his adventures." The comment made Maya realize something profound. Mango hadn't just found a family, he had found a family that would take him places he never could have imagined. From a lonely dog at a train station to an international traveler with his own passport. His life had transformed completely. When they landed in Romania, Mango faced his next challenge: customs and immigration for pets. Dr. Mitchell had warned Maya that this process could take several hours and might be stressful for Mango. But the Romanian officials were efficient and kind, clearly experienced with traveling pets. One customs officer even offered Mango a drink of water and a gentle pat while reviewing his papers. "Beautiful dog," the officer commented in English. "Mixed breed?" "We think so," Dr. Mitchell replied. "We rescued him as a stray, so we don't know his full history." "Ah," the officer nodded approvingly. "Rescue dogs make the best companions. They never forget kindness." Their new temporary home was a small furnished apartment near the veterinary clinic where Dr. Mitchell would be working. Alina had specifically chosen it because it had a small balcony and was near a park where Mango could exercise safely. After the intensity of airports and flights, the quiet apartment was a welcome relief for all of them, but Mango's adjustment to yet another new environment brought unexpected challenges. The first night, he refused to sleep, instead pacing restlessly around the apartment and whimpering softly. The sounds and smells were completely foreign to him, and despite his trust in his new family, his instincts were telling him to stay alert. Maya found him at 3 a.m. sitting by the front door, staring at it intently. "What's wrong, Mango?" she whispered, sitting down beside him. Alina, awakened by the movement, joined them in the living room. "He's probably just overwhelmed," she said gently. "Think about it in the space of a few weeks. He went from living at a train station to a hotel to an airplane to a completely new country. That's a lot of change for anyone." Dr. Mitchell emerged from the bedroom, having heard their quiet conversation. As a veterinarian, he recognized the signs of stress in animals adjusting to new environments. He needs time to understand that this is home now, not just another temporary stop. They spent the next hour sitting together on the living room floor, talking quietly and allowing Mango to explore every corner of the apartment at his own pace. Gradually, his anxiety decreased as he marked the apartment with his scent, began to recognize it as his territory. The next few days established new routines. Dr. Mitchell would leave for work each morning, but Alina and Maya were able to spend most of their time helping Mango adjust. They discovered a wonderful dog park just 2 blocks away, where Mango could run off leash safely for the first time since his rescue. It was at this dog park that they witnessed Mango's true personality beginning to emerge, away from the survival mode that had defined his train station days. And feeling secure in his family's presence, Mango revealed himself to be playful, intelligent, and remarkably social. He approached other dogs with careful politeness. As if remembering lessons from his life with Mr. Chen, he was especially gentle with puppies and smaller dogs, seeming to understand they needed protection. With humans, he was friendly but reserved, clearly preferring his own family while still accepting attention from others. Maya started teaching him new commands in English, building on the foundation of what he had learned with his previous owner. To everyone's amazement, Mango was eager to learn and incredibly quick to understand. Within a week, he was responding to sit, stay, come, and down in his new language. He's brilliant. Dr. Mitchell observed one evening as Mango successfully navigated a complex series of commands Maya had created. And he genuinely wants to please us. That's not something you can train, that's trust. Lena had been documenting their journey through photos and journal entries, partly for Maya's sake, and partly because she sensed they were living through something special. Looking through the pictures from just a month ago, Mango thin and frightened at the train station. Compared to recent photos of him playing confidently in the Romanian park, the transformation was remarkable. But perhaps the most significant moment came 3 weeks into their Romanian stay. Maya had been in the bathroom getting ready for bed when she heard Mango barking urgently from the living room. It wasn't his usual bark, but something more insistent and worried. She rushed out to find him standing at the front door, alert and focused. Dr. Mitchell and Alina emerged from their bedroom. Wondering what had caused the commotion, they soon heard what Mango's sensitive ears had detected first. Someone was trying to break into the apartment next door. Their neighbor, an elderly Romanian woman who lived alone, was apparently away for the evening, and someone was taking advantage of her absence. Dr. Mitchell immediately called the local police while Alina checked to make sure their own door was securely locked. Maya stayed with Mango, praising him quietly for his alertness. The police arrived quickly and caught the would-be burglar still trying to force the neighbor's lock. Later, when the elderly woman returned and learned what had happened, she came to thank them personally, bringing homemade cookies and many grateful words in broken English. "Your dog," she said to Maya. "He is guardian angel." As Maya hugged Mango that night, she realized something wonderful had happened. Mango wasn't just a rescued dog anymore. He was protecting his family and community. He had found his purpose again, and it was beautiful to witness. "You're not just surviving anymore, are you?" she whispered to him. "You're living. You're home." Mango's Story Part 5, 6 months into their life together. The Mitchell family received news that would test Mango's adaptability once again. Dr. Mitchell's organization was sending them to their most challenging assignment yet, a remote village in Kenya, where they would be working to establish a veterinary program for livestock that supported the entire community's livelihood. The location was isolated. The climate would be drastically different from anything Mango had experienced, and the living conditions would be more basic than their previous assignments. Alina worried privately about whether it was fair to ask Mango to make such a dramatic adjustment after he had finally settled into a comfortable routine in Romania. But Maya had no doubts. "Mango is part of our family now," she declared firmly. "Families stick together no matter where they go." Dr. Mitchell agreed, but he wanted to ensure they were making the right decision for Mango's well-being. He arranged for a full veterinary evaluation to confirm that Mango was healthy enough for the African climate, and they began preparing for what would be their most complex international move yet. The journey to Kenya involved 3 different flights and nearly 20 hours of travel time. Mango had become a seasoned traveler by now, and he handled the long journey with remarkable composure. Airport staff at their layover in Amsterdam even commented on how well-behaved and calm he was compared to other traveling pets. But nothing could have prepared any of them for the dramatic change awaiting them in Kenya. The village where they would be living for the next year was a 6-hour drive from Nairobi, accessible only by rough dirt roads that challenged even their experienced driver. As their jeep bounced and lurched through increasingly remote landscape, Mango pressed his nose to the window, taking in sights and smells completely unlike anything in his experience. The acacia trees, red earth, and vast open spaces were breathtaking, but also overwhelming. When they finally arrived at their new home, simple but comfortable house provided by the local community, Mango emerged from the vehicle and stood perfectly still, processing the sensory overload of this new environment. The heat was intense, even in the evening. The sounds were entirely different. No traffic, No urban noise, just wind, distant animal calls, the voices of villagers going about their daily routines. Most striking of all was the space. After months of apartments and hotel rooms, Mango found himself in a landscape that seemed to stretch forever in every direction. Maya watched anxiously as Mango took his first tentative steps around their new yard. The red dust felt strange under his paws, and the intense heat made him seek shade immediately under a large baobab tree that dominated their compound. "He seems overwhelmed," Alina observed, noting how Mango stayed close to the tree rather than exploring as he usually did in new places. But Dr. Mitchell was watching something else. "Look at his ears," he said quietly. "He's not stressed, he's fascinated." Indeed, Mango's ears were perked forward, swiveling to catch every new sound. His nose was working overtime, processing the complex symphony of scents that surrounded them. While he was cautious, there was an alertness in his posture that spoke of interest rather than fear. Their first week in the village brought unexpected discoveries about Mango's adaptability. The local children, initially shy around the foreign family, were immediately drawn to Mango. They had never seen a dog quite like him. Most village dogs were working animals or strays, not family pets who wore collars and answered to their names. A young boy named Kamani was the first to approach. He had been watching Mango from a distance for several days, clearly wanting to interact but uncertain about proper etiquette. Maya noticed his interest and gently encouraged the introduction. "Mango, sit," she commanded, and then showed Kimani how to extend his hand for Mango to sniff. The boy's face lit up with delight when Mango gently licked his fingers and wagged his tail in acceptance. Soon, a small group of children was visiting daily, eager to learn about caring for Mango and fascinated by his tricks and obedience. Maya found herself teaching impromptu lessons about pet care, while Mango patiently endured being petted by many small hands and posed for countless photos with his new admirers. But it was Mango's interaction with the village's working animals that truly impressed the local community. The village had several donkeys used for transportation, numerous goats, and chickens that roamed freely. Most visiting dogs would have chased the chickens or fought with the other animals. Mango, however, seemed to understand intuitively that these animals had important jobs. He observed them respectfully, keeping his distance from the chickens and actually seeming to enjoy watching the goats graze. When one young goat got separated from its herd and began crying pitifully, Mango gently guided it back toward the group without causing any distress. The village elder, a wise man named Samuel who spoke excellent English, was particularly impressed by this behavior. "Your dog has good spirit," he told Dr. Mitchell. "He understands harmony." Dr. Mitchell's work in the village involved training local farmers in basic veterinary care for their livestock. Many of the treatments were simple: wound cleaning, basic first aid, recognizing signs of common diseases. But trust was essential. Some farmers were initially skeptical of the foreign veterinarian's methods. It was Mango who became the unexpected ambassador for Dr. Mitchell's work. When farmers came to the makeshift clinic Dr. Mitchell had set up, they would see Mango lying calmly nearby, clearly healthy and well cared for. Children would run up to pet Mango, chattering excitedly to their parents about the friendly dog and the kind foreign family. "Your dog speaks for your character," Samuel explained to Dr. Mitchell one day. "A man who cares well for his animals can be trusted to care well for ours." This trust became crucial when the village faced its first veterinary crisis since their arrival. A disease outbreak among the goats threatened the livelihood of several families. Dr. Mitchell worked tirelessly to identify the problem and develop a treatment plan. But success depended on the farmer's willingness to follow his protocols exactly. Mango played an unexpected role in gaining that cooperation. When Dr. Mitchell demonstrated proper injection techniques using Mango as a patient for routine vaccinations, the farmers could see that the foreign veterinarian practiced on his own beloved pet what he was asking them to do with their animals. He trusts his dog to this treatment, one farmer said to another in their local language, not knowing that Alina had been learning key phrases and understood more than they realized. "Then we can trust our goats to it." The treatment program was successful, saving the village's goat population and cementing Dr. Mitchell's reputation as a trustworthy healer. But for Mango, Experience had been transformative in a different way. For the first time since Mr. Chen's death, Mongo had found a sense of purpose beyond simply being a beloved pet. He was contributing to his family's work in a meaningful way, helping to build bridges between cultures and establishing trust in communities where such trust was vital for success. Maya noticed the change in him during their evening walks around the village. Mango carried himself differently now, with confidence and pride. He had found his place not just in their family, but in the larger community they served. He's not just surviving or even just living anymore. She observed to her parents one evening as they watched Mango patiently allow a group of children to braid ribbons into his fur. He's thriving. He has a job again. Alina smiled as she watched her daughter and their dog surrounded by laughing children from halfway around the world. I think we all are, she replied. I think we're all exactly where we're supposed to be, as the African sun set in spectacular colors over the vast landscape. Mango lay contentedly in the red dust, surrounded by his expanded family that now included not just the Mitchells, but an entire village of people who had come to love and respect the golden brown dog who had traveled so far from a lonely train station to find his purpose in life. The little dog who had once sat alone and forgotten had become a bridge between worlds, and in doing so, had finally found his way home. Mango's Story Part 6. 2 years had passed since Mango's rescue from the train station, and the Mitchell family was preparing for what would be their most significant transition yet, returning to their home country and establishing a permanent base for Dr. Mitchell's expanding international veterinary work. Maya, now 10 years old, had grown up alongside Mango through their adventures across 3 countries. She had learned to speak basic Romanian and Swahili, had experienced cultures most children only read about in books, and had developed a deep understanding of animal behavior by watching Mango adapt to each new environment. But more than that, she had witnessed something extraordinary: the complete transformation of a broken, abandoned animal into a confident, purposeful companion who had touched lives across continents. The village in Kenya had been particularly reluctant to see them go. Samuel, the village elder, organized a farewell ceremony that honored not just Dr. Mitchell's veterinary work, but specifically recognized Mango's contribution to the community. This dog came from far away. Like you, Samuel said in his farewell speech. But he learned our ways, respected our animals, and helped our children learn about kindness. He will always be welcome in our village. The children had prepared a special gift, a hand-woven collar made from local materials, decorated with beads that told the story of Mango's time with them. Kimani, now one of Maya's closest friends, despite the language barrier, attached it around Mango's neck with ceremonial seriousness. So he remembers us, Kimani explained in his careful English. Mango seemed to understand the significance of the moment. He sat perfectly still during the ceremony, accepting the attention and gifts with the dignified grace he had developed over his travels. When children approached to say goodbye, he gently nuzzled each one, as if he too understood this was a farewell. The journey back to their home country was bittersweet. Mango was now an experienced international traveler, handling airports and flights with the confidence of a seasoned diplomat. Flight attendants on their route from Nairobi recognized him from previous journeys and always made sure to check on his comfort. But Alina noticed that Mango seemed more contemplative during this journey, spending long periods looking out airplane windows as if processing all the places he had been and changes he had experienced. Their new home was a spacious house in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, chosen specifically to provide stability for Maya's education while serving as a base for Dr. Mitchell's consulting work with international aid organizations. For the first time in years, they would be staying in one place for an extended period. The adjustment was surprisingly challenging for all of them, but especially for Mango. After years of constant change and new adventures, the routine of suburban life felt almost too quiet. Mango would sit by the front door for hours, not with the anxiety he had shown in his early days with them, but with the alertness of someone waiting for the next adventure to begin. Maya worried that Mango was bored or unhappy. Maybe he misses traveling, she confided to her mother. Maybe he thinks we've stopped needing him. Alina had been thinking the same thing. Mango had found his identity as their traveling companion and cultural ambassador. Without that role, he seemed to be searching for a new purpose. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Mitchell had been invited to speak at the local university's veterinary school about his international work. He decided to bring Mango along, thinking the students might be interested in hearing about the challenges of traveling with pets in developing countries. The response was overwhelming. Mango's story from train station stray to international veterinary ambassador captivated the students. But more than that, Mango himself charmed everyone he met. His calm demeanor, obvious intelligence, and gentle nature made him a perfect educational companion. Professor Williams, who headed the university's community outreach program, approached Dr. Mitchell after his presentation. "Have you ever considered therapy animal work?" she asked. "Mango has exactly the temperament we look for in animals who visit hospitals, nursing homes, and schools." The idea intrigued Dr. Mitchell, but it was Maya who became truly excited about the possibility. "Mango could help people here, just like he helped people in Kenya and Romania," she said eagerly. "He could have a job again." The training process for therapy animal certification was rigorous, but Mango excelled at every requirement. His years of adapting to new environments, meeting strangers, and remaining calm in challenging situations had prepared him perfectly for this work. His first official visit was to a children's hospital, where he would be helping young patients who were dealing with long-term illnesses. Maya, now certified as his handler, accompanied him on these visits. The transformation in both Mango and the children he visited was remarkable. Mango seemed to instinctively understand that these children needed gentleness and patience. He would lie perfectly still while a child in a wheelchair petted him, or sit calmly beside a hospital bed while a young patient read to him. One particular visit stood out. A 7-year-old girl named Lucy had been in the hospital for weeks with a serious illness that required her to be isolated from most visitors. She had become withdrawn and fearful, barely speaking to doctors or nurses. When Mango entered her room, Lucy's eyes widened with interest for the first time in days. "Is he friendly?" she whispered. "He's very friendly," Maya replied gently. "His name is Mango, and he loves meeting new people." Over the course of an hour, Lucy gradually opened up, first just petting Mango's head, then talking to him about her illness and her fears. Mango listened with the same patient attention he had once given to Maya, reading to him in their hotel room after his rescue. "He's not scared of the hospital," Lucy observed. "Maybe I don't have to be scared either." The nursing staff later told Maya that Lucy's attitude changed dramatically after Mango's visit. She began cooperating more with treatments and even started eating better. "Your dog has a gift," one nurse explained. "Some animals just understand what people need." As Mango's therapy work expanded to include nursing homes and schools, Maya began to understand something profound about the dog who had once sat alone at a train station. Mango's greatest talent wasn't just surviving difficult circumstances, it was helping others feel less alone in their own difficult circumstances. At the nursing home, he would seek out the residents who seemed most isolated, lying quietly beside their wheelchairs, or accepting gentle pats from hands that shook with age. At schools, he helped children who were afraid of animals learn that not all creatures were threatening, and gave shy students a safe way to practice social interaction. Alina documented these visits, just as she had documented their international travels, creating a portfolio that captured Mango's evolution from rescued stray to healing companion. The photos told an incredible story: Mango comforting a crying child, sleeping peacefully beside an elderly man's chair, demonstrating obedience commands for amazed students. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. Rahman, the security guard from the train station where Mango had lived as a stray, reached out through social media after seeing news coverage of Mango's therapy work. "I always knew that dog was special," Rahman wrote in his message. "I'm so happy to see he found his true calling. He was helping people even when he was just a stray. He made everyone at the station smile, even in difficult times. Now he's helping people everywhere." The message included photos Rahman had secretly taken of Mango during his train station days, images that showed a thin, lonely dog who nevertheless had maintained his gentle spirit even in the darkest times. Maya cried when she saw those photos, understanding fully for the first time what Mango had endured before finding them. But they also filled her with pride, seeing concrete evidence of the resilience and kindness that had always been part of Mango's character. On the second anniversary of Mango's rescue, the Mitchell family returned to the train station where their journey together had begun. Rahman was there to meet them, now a supervisor who had helped implement new policies for helping stray animals at the station. "We have a permanent feeding station now," he explained proudly, "and partnerships with local rescue groups. Mango inspired us to do better for the animals who find themselves here." Mango explored the station with curious interest, sniffing familiar corners but showing no desire to stay. This was no longer his world. He had moved far beyond survival mode into a life of purpose and love. As they prepared to leave, Rahman knelt down to say goodbye to Mango. "Thank you," he said simply, "for showing us what was possible." Maya looked at Mango, now wearing his therapy animal vest alongside the Kenyan collar that reminded him of his adventures, and realized that his story was still being written. From a lonely dog at a train station to an international traveler to a certified therapy, Animal Mango had shown them all that with love, patience, and opportunity. Anyone could find their way to a meaningful life. The little dog who had once been lost had become a guide for others, helping them find their own paths through difficulty and fear, and in doing so, he had fulfilled the promise that Rahman had seen in him from the very beginning. He had always been special, just waiting for someone to recognize his value. As they walked out of the train station together, Mango trotted confidently beside Maya, his tail high and his step sure. He was no longer the abandoned dog seeking shelter. He was Mango Mitchell, therapy animal, world traveler, and beloved family member, ready for whatever adventure came next.